Welcome to the Spiritual Underground Podcast. This is Dan coming to you from the studio at DTM Enterprises, my wood shop in the backyard. Just come off a fantastic weekend. This is a little special edition of the Spiritual Underground Podcast. We had a retreat, which is called SPURT 6, which that's short for Spiritual Underground Retreat. It was formed up by my home group, and you'll hear a little more, probably maybe some duplicate information again here in a little bit as I did an intro on site at the retreat this past weekend. But I'm going to talk a little more about how that formed up. So we come off the tail end of this retreat and got home. This is on a Monday today. I'm resting, relaxing after a pretty exciting and strenuous and just juice-filled weekend. And wanted to put together a podcast that conveyed some of that energy for what was going on down there all weekend. In 2015, I spent 2015 on home incarceration. My home group had a retreat, just a day-long potluck type retreat. We're going to a local forestry area, and they wouldn't. The people who had the key to my ankle bracelet would not let me go to it since it was across the county line of the areas I was allowed to travel in. And later on in the, as it went around, I really missed that. And there was a couple other things that the group was doing that I wasn't able to do. Flip side of that is that ankle bracelet actually saved me from a whole lot of things that, like weddings and ball games and different things that would have been temptations to drink or use. I was saved from those things. I had an easy out, but I did miss out with some of my home group activities when they traveled. Another place they went to was to Gethsemane, Trappist Monk Abbey down in Bardstown, Kentucky. They would go down there around Christmas time, but anyway, the retreat was born out of that. They were looking at the that little retreat they had and were wanting to do something like that. Some other men's group around town were doing retreats that were really just kind of a little more pricey and priced a lot of our guys out of it. And I had this place out in the country, just 50 miles west of Louisville, Kentucky. Family owned. My dad, my brother, and I put it together. Truth of the matter is my dad made all that happen, and my brother and I get to reap the benefits of that. Dad still likes to go down, but he just doesn't do like he used to. And actually, this year, 2019, is the 20th year we built that cabin and started that project in 1999. So, really changed a lot down there. It used to be that we drank and drugged down there a lot, and that's what we did. And it was a little bit of an escape, a place to go do that. And we built a really nice 20 by 40 log cabin down there. My dad, my brother, and I and friends helped. And we did that. I would get up in the morning, and if we made it to noon, it'd be a rare thing before we started drinking. We'd drink all day building it. Well, the energy has shifted down there now in recovery, and my friends has helped that happen, and we go down and started doing these retreats. So anyway, to circle back, I had the idea to do that, to think about having these guys down there, and we could spend the night, and we would be private. We could lock the gate. We wouldn't be bothered by the public. That was something else that would happen as they were trying to have like meetings and have time together in a public setting. They were getting having people come upon them, and they might be sharing stuff, or could limit what you'd be willing to share in case somebody was walking up hearing you. It's kind of like doing fist steps and stuff in public locations. So that's a long ways less than ideal place to be dumping your basket out and letting people sort through it. So anyway, what was it? March, I think it was, of 2016, the Indiana State Convention was at French Lick, which is about 20 miles north of where the cabin is, and I invited a half a dozen guys to come with me, and we stayed at the cabin. We went back and forth to the convention, and we stayed at the cabin. Now, we was having such a good time at the cabin, we hardly wanted to go to the convention. We did, but that was how I opened the door and said, yeah, I think this is going to work. And started planning that spring retreat in May of 2016, and that was SPURT 1. And that SPURT is SPURT, that's Spiritual Underground Retreat. Yeah, I know it's a double or triple entendre, possibly, but Rule 62, I'm not going to take myself too damn seriously. and it's taken hold too. So when now our group talks about it, it's talked about in some level of reverence, really. So I had one in the spring, and it was so fun. We had another one in the fall, and in 2017 we had SPURT 3 in the spring and SPURT 4 in the fall. In 2018 we had SPURT 4 in the spring, and in 2018 in the fall I was in yoga teacher training and decided not to have a retreat. Plus, it's kind of, be honest, a little bit loses its luster doing twice a year. It's a little more special as an annual event, and I think I'm actually going to stick with that. I'm not convinced yet. We'll see what happens. I was kind of actually thinking maybe we do something different in the fall. Maybe a trip to a real resort or something like that, like a Red River Gorge, rent a cabin out down there or something like that. Well, back to this weekend's retreat. As things developed, we were doing like noon to noon on Saturday to Sunday, and frankly, it went by so fast that it just really felt like a snap of the fingers. And I talked about starting it off on Friday and just making it kind of loosey-goosey fellowship time on Friday, and that's what we did. A couple, I don't even remember, like SPURT 4 and 5, I think we added to Friday, and we just hung around and played and fellowshipped, and it bought some time for those guys who could actually come down a day early. Worked out really well. And then this year we had enough people that was like, maybe 6 came down on Friday one year, and then 10, 11, 12, something like that the next year on Friday. And the majority of people still were coming down on Saturday. Well, this year I had like 24 people signed up to come down on Friday, which turned into quite a crowd. That was my normal Saturday night crowd the year before. Friend of mine, Shane, he offered to wanted to do a little meditation and a meeting and facilitate a meeting on Friday night, and I thought that's a great idea. So I know these things can be fun, and we want to have time to just fellowship and hang out, but there also is a need for the structure, and that goes good too for the meetings and having things happen that are a lot of that have some structure to it, so we can. It just works for alcoholics in that manner, and the spiritually sick. So we did that, and we got down there. We took off about everybody. Pretty good group met at my house about 10 a.m. on Friday. We caravan down there. They helped me get set up. I had things in pretty good shape, probably as good a shape as I've had, and being I'm not technically employed at the moment, so I was able to get down last weekend, and I had my ducks in a row here at home. So we got down and had some time to play. Had our meeting cooked and ate on Saturday night, or on Friday night. Had a great time, and I think there was 22 of us turned out. 22, 23 were there on Friday night. There's always some people that drop out, and that's an interesting thing, and that's something I want to touch on here. And we wake up Saturday morning, did some yoga, some meditation, cooked some breakfast, had some pancakes and sausage, hang around, let the rest of the people roll in, and it just gets to be really cool. We got some tables set up, we got a fire going, we're out in the backyard of the cabin, we're way back tucked into Hoosier National Forestry, safe and protected. Nobody bumps into us, and it's just a really, really, really cool energy back in there. We don't really have any lunch. People bring snacks, and Shane makes a heck of this Santa Fe soup, of which I didn't get any of this year. Somehow or another, I missed both batches being cooked. Guys go over to the pond about a quarter mile away. So the property lays out, the main piece of property is like 42.5 acres. So one cabin, the main cabin, the log cabin, the one we built in 99 is on one corner of that 40 acres. It's a 20 by 40 log cabin, and it's got a half loft upstairs. We've got 8 beds up there. They're like dormitory-sized beds. One of them, there's actually 6 dormitory-sized beds and then some bunk beds. And then on the opposite corner is the original piece of property, the original cabin, and there's a pond over there also. We call that cabin over there the chalet. It's a small A-frame. I think it's something like 20 by 12, 3-story. Really, really neat. And that's where I grew up hunting at. We're going over, and Dad and some of his buddies built that. And I'm not exactly sure of the time frame. It's sometime 1970s, early 70s anyway. And after we got the log cabin done, the chalet sitting over there, we actually stayed in the chalet a bit while we were building the main cabin. And once we got that cabin, the main cabin high enough, tall enough that you could, we pulled a tarp over top of it, and we slept in it. Then we started staying actually in the main cabin while we were building it. We just went down there on weekends. We would work. We started on August the 7th of 1999. We had it weather tight in November the 7th of 99. So in 3 months, we're basically working weekends. Primarily Dad and myself and my brother. We did have friends come down, and somebody was with us a lot of weekends too, you know, helping paint logs or doing something, just providing manpower, helping out. We had that thing under roof or weather tight in 3 months. But anyway, on that other side, once we got the cabin done and all that, we ended up buying that property next to us, which was the 40. We ended up having the 42.5 acres. And that was connected and had this chalet on it. It was a friend of Dad's, owned that piece of property, and that's who they dug a pond over there. So we go over to the pond and fish and swim and hang around over there. I have a couple like little 4-wheelers, a tractor, and another guy brings his little side-by-side down. And most people, it's kind of funny, as our group is going, we're starting to be a lot more health conscious, and people are wanting to walk, and there's really not too many people that are, you know, occasionally you have some people that are not capable of making that kind of distance across that 40 acres from one corner to the other, which is really not that far. It's like 3/8 of a mile or so. But it's through the woods, and so a lot of people can't make that little hike. And this year, everybody could pretty much make that hike, which is kind of cool. And so a lot of people they actually choose to walk that now instead of taking the vehicles, which is an interesting turn of events, because it used to be a little bit of like a caravan and people over there because nobody wanted to walk. What a change a few years makes. So then around noon, when everybody rolls in, have a little opening meeting. Technically, like this year, I had 2 of them, sort of, because there were so many of us there Friday night. I had to look at how I'm going to do the agenda from here on out. But we have a little opening meeting, a little opening meditation, prayer, set some intentions. I try to have a theme for each one. This year, I pulled the theme off of my yoga teacher training, and it was really seemed to me, and here's the way I'll go with it, whether if it's actually true or not. A lot of it was anchored in the Don Miguel Ruiz book, The Voice of Knowledge, and it is a lot about the storyteller and the lies we tell ourselves and who we think we are and who we think we're not, which basically always ends up putting us where we're better than or less than, and essentially apart from you. So I use that for a theme, and I give a little lead, and we have a share, and I do these meetings as participation meetings. You don't get to come here and not share. In a traditional 12-step meeting, you know, sharing is voluntary. I really do encourage everybody. Now, I wouldn't just flat out make somebody share, but so far that has actually worked out where I've just asked that everybody share, and everybody feels safe enough that they can, you know. And some guys you got to ring the bell on. We had 32 people around the fire on Saturday night, and that was a 4-hour meeting. If everybody goes 5 minutes, that ends up being like almost a 3-hour meeting if you just went tail end to shares. And we had to get up and take restroom breaks and fill up coffee and do other things. So that ended up being a 4-hour meeting, and it was really cool. I mean, I won't take anything away from it. It's worth every minute. I also had some other activities in the evening on Saturday night, but as this thing grows and that sharing time gets longer and longer, it kind of cuts into the other activities that I have on Saturday night. We did a drum circle on the first couple ones, and where we all sit around and played instruments. And whether if you're a musician or not, you can beat on a drum or beat on a bucket lid or something, and everybody kind of joins in and gets a rhythm going with one another, and it's a really neat experience. But when you finish a meeting at 11:30 p.m. And you started at 7:30, the drum circle and the marshmallows and s'mores and all that really weren't in the schedule anymore. So I'll have to take a look at that as this thing continues to grow. And in fact, I think I've actually reached the limit of what's actually doable. We have a couple outhouses, one at each cabin. That restroom limitation is pretty tough. A lot of guys talk about they don't like to use it, and like they'll do almost like wait all weekend. And I don't do that. I've grown up using outhouses all my life. It doesn't bother me one bit. And our outhouse is pretty nice, to be honest. But our outhouses have heat and light. Now, you didn't need no heat this time around, but they're nice. But it does smell like an outhouse. So that's a limitation. And then like that sharing thing of that wanting everybody to participate, that actually puts a limit on it, you know. Having 32 people around that campfire, that was that. And, you know, at some point we started seeing who, I don't really want to And if I did during the interview phase of this podcast, I did, but I'm just not going to let that cat out of the bag. There's a couple things I do down there that I'd rather not be broadcasting right now because I plan on continuing to use those over and over again. And for new people, that's cool. Speaking of new people, there were 11 people coming to the 11 people in their first year of recovery coming to the retreat this time around. It was supposed to be 12, and one didn't make it. So I'll talk about that a little bit too. So we had 32 men in recovery gathered around this campfire eating awesome food. We had steak and potatoes for Friday night. We a friend of ours we got a few cooks and chefs in our group, and one of them smoked some Boston butt, and we had that for our meat on Saturday night, and a few people pitched in and had some really nice side dishes. We were practicing, everybody was authentic. They could actually be themselves out there. They're sharing vulnerable things, sharing things you probably wouldn't hear inside the four walls of the recovery rooms where we usually meet. We're all working to become better versions of ourselves. We're all in a similar trajectory, just trying to deepen our connection with one another and become, compare ourselves to who we were yesterday, not who somebody else is today. We had, I think if I'm right, the guy that was like the youngest in his recovery was 78 days sober. The guy who's the most celebrated 35 years last weekend. So that's a pretty good swath across. And the Bill Wilson in his book said we're a group who would normally not mix. That's for sure here too. I mean, there's a lot of said it, but if you look around that room, man, or around the room, I joke around. We used to meet in a bigger room at the church we meet in, and it was a high ceiling, and we had a little line in there that said, "Please speak loudly so that everyone may hear you, as this is a big room." Well, I say the same thing in here because we're outside and the wind is blowing and the generator's humming, and guys kind of will lower their voices. I've been accused of it too. Will lower my voice while I'm sharing something. Mood strikes me, and you can't hear. So I always say that's a big room. So anyway, we're all around that room. You look around and man, it runs from all ages and all socioeconomic backgrounds, really. So where am I going to go from there? You will hear a little intro on this, and this podcast might be a little long. So what I wanted to do is I took the recording equipment down there and I sit down and had people come up to the microphone and talk to me. And share a little bit about what they were hearing, what they were receiving, what they thought about the retreat, just to help bring this retreat energy to you guys. And there's a couple people in there that talk about it, so I'm not going to go on at length than that. What I will share with you is that you'll hear me say thank you for allowing me to participate in my recovery, and hosting that retreat is really it's a really strong way I get to participate in my recovery, along with this podcast. Unique ways I get to participate in my recovery. It really deepens my insurance that I have when it comes to my recovery. It's kind of an insurance policy on staying sober. So the people out there too, I thank them for participating in their recovery by showing up. It's not an easy thing, especially for those guys, like the people who are early in recovery. Maybe this is their first men's retreat and they're coming out to some place in the middle of no place with some dudes who are pretty damn strong in their recovery, and quite frankly can be kind of intimidating. And we've even been accused of being cliquish. I take exception to that. I think the disease is what's causing that cliquish thought. It's not that we're cliquish. It's that those people are having a heck of a time coming in. And that's understandable. And any reason a disease can give you, I liken it to a parasite. It's a hijacks your operating system. People don't know they're doing what they're doing, but that parasite just got them and is saying, "Don't go there. That's going to be good. That's going to be bad for me." As your disease and as the person in the piece of you that wants to keep on using alcohol and dope. Going there is not going to be conducive to me continuing to get high and drunk. So I commend those guys who come for the first time, and I also commend the guys who keep coming back. Some of them are, we're doing this year after year, so they're starting to know what to do down here, know where I have things when we need to, like, can you get me this? And they know where it's at, and they know how to put things back away. So it's also making it a lot easier on me. At the same time, I'm getting better at allowing people to help me. This year, the food was a lot easier because I allowed so many people to help me do that. So it just keeps on getting better and stronger, in my opinion. I do worry a little bit of it. I don't know. Can you just keep on doing this thing over? I mean, I'm sure there are some things like this that are just year in, year out for a long, long time. But that's getting into that future stuff that I'm supposed to be avoiding, so I won't. What I will say, though, is there's certain people, and I share about this, and it's not to hurt the people's feelings, because some of them may be listening to this that I'm speaking about, and I'll leave the names out of it. Those of us that are in the tight circles and stuff will know who I'm talking about, and I think we have to do this to some extent. I don't much care for sugarcoating a lot of things. Sometimes when this disease is deadly, man, you sugarcoat it, you die. At best, you're in a jail or going crazy, or and the fact of the matter is, we hurt everybody that's in our periphery, be it children, parents, employers, anybody around us. We hurt them when we are continuing to use. So I'm just going to call this disease what it is, and that's deadly, and I'm going to talk about it in that fashion. As such, people do not, there's 3 or 4, there's 3 people that, man, I might be careful about the quantities. But anyway, there was a few people who dropped out of the retreat. They sign up and they decide later on that they don't want to go. I've had a couple people speak of that they didn't feel like they could connect with us. Once again, I think that's the disease. But then again, man, if you're not connecting, then I'm gonna have to give you a little bit of the benefit of it out there too. But I don't really think that's what's going on. I think the disease is walking people back out. So we have these people that can't come, and what they're doing, you either get to come in here and tear down the walls and become more connected with us, with your fellows, with these people, not just with us, or wherever you're finding this, if it's in a yoga community or wherever you're finding this community, this connection with these other human beings that are on the same trajectory you are. And so if you're either tearing down the wall of vulnerability and becoming closer in with these people, or you're stepping away from them, And I watch people that say that, one guy said he feels like he's being pushed out by the group. Well, it's kind of, what I'm seeing is that the group is standing here and he is walking away looking at us, accusing us of pushing him out. We're the very group that helped him more than anybody else has ever helped him. We are the ones that picked him up and lifted him through his first year or so of recovery, and he feels like we're now pushing him out. I'm just not going with that. Pardon me on that bing. I'm going to have to turn off put the do not disturb on that thing. Another fellow's going to continue to stay in recovery, but just not join up with us, and he dropped out of the retreat, and I don't think anybody. I think the parasite has got these folks. I don't think that there's anything they're doing consciously. We even had a fellow who drove all the way down, and when you get back to my place, and we have it that way on purpose to some level, we want it to somewhat look like you're at the end of the world. I don't necessarily want it to look like someplace that is inviting you to come further. And I put together a map, and I tell people that, or at least I surely try. And when I ask my other friends, they say, yeah, man, you're clear about that. And you get to this point and you keep driving. When you think you've gone too far, keep going. I mean, this place is back in there. And he drove out and he stopped at, we have an orange traffic barrel out in the front, and it's to keep people from driving down this hill to where the gate is, because if you drive down to where the gate is and you can't get through the gate, then you're going to have to back up this hill. There's no way to turn around and go up. And so I try to stop people from making that mistake by putting that barrel out there. And that this place is primarily a hunting club, and it's a family thing, and we call it the Fargo Hunt Club. So I got it posted like that. That come from reading some magazines. Quality Deer Management is one of them, and one of the ways to help yourself, this is another cat out of the bag thing, but a way to help yourself cut down on trespassers is to post your property as a hunting club, because people don't know how many members you got and how many people are coming to a hunting club. If it just says no trespassing and it looks like nobody's been around lately. Chances of going in there and running into somebody are probably pretty slim. You come to a hunting club, especially in hunting season, good chance you're going to be running into somebody. So anyway, we have it posted as a hunting club. This guy pulled down there, saw that, and turned around. And the map that I have has the name of the hunting club on it. It calls it that. The map it points out the orange barricade and says, shows you to go past that and keep coming back to the cabin. Pardon me, I'm going to have to sneeze or something. Boom, it passed. So this guy did that, and he turned around and come home. He could not ride back in there. A couple years ago, we had a guy, and he drove back in there, and he shared in a Saturday night meeting later on in the day that he had wanted to turn around, but once he got past that point I was just talking about, there's no place to turn around. So he kept on driving, hoping to turn around, and then he got all the way down there to where we were. We saw him, we talked to him, we caught him, and he said at that point he was stuck, and like, damn it. So he stayed, and he couldn't even tell us that, but he did actually share that at the meeting, and you saw him. Some people have breakthroughs at these events. You see them lighten up, you see their moods. They'll be different people after this extra level of connection, and it's just that's one of the ways I get to participate in my recovery. That's an intangible, to be able to be whatever small part of that. I like to say an instrument in the master's hand, right? By walking this path and sharing my recovery with other people. So you see these people who can't seem to come. Another gentleman had something happen in his family. I kind of get it, but what can you really do from home, right? So many of these situations are powerless, and you take that opportunity to check out and not show up for yourself. Alcoholics, addicts, we tend to have this, especially when we get sober, man, we got this little bit of I think we have it the whole time, but this little bit of a martyr mentality. Well, I can't go, I will stay home, and such and such happened. I had a friend that's got some problems with his wife's or his mom's health is declining, and he called me and talked to me about maybe skipping a retreat, man. And I think the opposite needed to happen. This is like when you need to be at the retreat, not when you need to be skipping it. There's nothing going to happen to her that you can do anything about, man. We are powerless over this stuff and people's health declining. There's nothing that would happen that he could make that he could really do anything about. If it was that critical, there would be no decision to make that would change any outcomes. And more likely, any decision that maybe they come up with wanting to ask about would be getting a phone call, and it distracted me. That's the other thing. I need to put my phone on Do Not Disturb when I'm recording these podcasts. Anything that happened, any decisions could wait till Monday, or it's a weekend. You don't have time to invest in your own recovery. It's going to be mighty tough for you to stay sober. You're early on and getting clean and stuff, and you see people do it. The ones that, there's some truth to that. Meeting makers make it, especially early on, man. You get your butt in a meeting a lot. What you're not doing is out in your head. You're in a meeting, you're connecting, you're making that connection with people. So we drop off of that as we get some time under our belt, and we start thinking we don't need to go to things as much, and I can do without this one. And you can really look forward to some event coming up and talk yourself out of going. Even when you've been there before and it's good for you. It just surprises me. Cunning, baffling, powerful, insidious, insanity. The things that will allow you to pull yourself away from your recovery. But 32 men didn't, and they showed up for themselves, and we had a great time, man. And you'll see the bonds, and that's the other thing, man. We'll grow closer, and that's where some of this clickiness comes from. These clickiness accusations is that some of us are participating in our recovery, and we're bonding with one another, and others are not, and they are jealous of that fact. And even the ones that don't know that's what's going on, they come in and are new. They see that energy that we have between ourselves, between one another, that bond. And it feels cliquish, and they feel like they can't come in. Fact of the matter is, we're all standing there with our arms open, and I'm trying to do a better job every day of every time I see somebody who is not standing inside a circle. You'll see it like after the meetings, like the lone guys that'll be over by themselves and trying to figure out a way, man. I got a job. One of my jobs today is make sure that guy gets into my circle or somebody's circle anyway, so that he's not standing there alone. There shouldn't be ever anybody standing alone after one of these meetings. So we try to pull them in. I always say, and you'll hear this when it's an interview portion too, I always try to find a couple people to invite that are not necessarily inside our inner circle either. That's more of higher power doing. It comes to me, but I'm actually keeping my eyes open for it this time. And they're on the mic, so I'll say their name. Marshall and Mark both came down, and they're from about an hour outside of Louisville. And they showed up for their recovery this weekend, man. They did it together, and they both said, had the other one not come with them, they probably would have found a reason to back out. But they had each other keeping one another accountable, and they showed up. And I think that they're better for it. And you hear them talk about it here in just a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to string together some of these interviews. And my first little thing is the intro. You'll hear that from on location in the backyard at the Fargo Hunt Club at SPURT 6. You'll hear a lot of the same, or some of the same thing I've said here, but repetition, right? I guess I'll hang my hat on that. So thank you all for listening to me. I hope you enjoy this podcast. Once again, spiritualunderground.org. You can listen to that. You can go there, see pictures. Probably going to have some pictures of the retreat. I'm trying to figure out about how to get that okayed by the people at the retreat. But I'll do that. And but you can also see the people that are being interviewed and the guests on the podcast. So you can go there, spiritualunderground.org. There's a contact me page. You can contact me. The music wrapped around here, and you'll hear little pieces of music in between each one of these intros and that kind of thing, or in between these little interviews. Is Darren Frank. Wanting more information on his music, contact me. I'll get you in contact with him. And 12 Step Spiritual Recovery, book by James Christopher Cone, is out on Amazon. Go out there and read that. That's how these 32 guys are getting the juice in their lives. It allows us to show up, participate in our lives like never before. Very little was talked about drinking or drugging this weekend, other than it was something we did in our past. Today we're trying to figure out how to live fully and productively and authentically, and stand in our integrity, and be vulnerable and put the shame behind us, and walk through this life with our shoulders back and our head up, and being the person that the universe has created us to be. Thank you all for listening to me. Thank you all for listening to this thing. We just keep on climbing into listeners, and I really just enjoy it immensely. It's a flow thing to be behind the microphone. There's two things that make me feel happier than anything I do today, and one of them is doing these podcasts, and one of them is doing that woodwork, and I get to do both of them in the same building a lot of times. So thank you all for allowing me to participate in my recovery in this manner today. Hope you enjoy these little clips and this intro, and take some of this energy out of this retreat we have. Peace out. Hey, welcome to the Spiritual Underground Podcast, coming to you from SPURT 6. It is Friday night. We've got a fair handful of guys here. I haven't counted a head count just yet, but we're going to guess someplace near a dozen. Got the fire going, waiting to start cooking some supper here in just a little bit. Guys are sitting around picnic table, jaw-jacking about kid raising and this kind of thing. So let's get to this a little bit. 2016, I had an idea. My home group had been did a retreat in Bernheim Forest here locally, and it was outside the counties I was allowed to go to since I was on home incarceration. So I had to miss out on that one. They had a little bit of problem with privacy and different things, and so I got to thinking about it and thought, you know what, man, I got a place out in the country where we could do a retreat, and it seemed like a little far, and it's also kind of primitive, and I was, self-doubting and wondering if anybody would like to come and that kind of thing. So I did a kind of a trial run. The Indiana State Convention was being held in French Lick, which is about 20 minutes north of where the cabin is, and half a dozen of us came or something like that, and we spent the night and went up there, and everybody had a good time, and decided to think about having that retreat, the spring retreat in 2016, have it here. And I did pull that off. Had 16 or so people come, I think, if I remember the head count right. And we just had a fantastic time, and I've been doing 2 a year since then. So that's I did a spring one that year and a fall, and then a spring and fall again. And I did not do a fall one last year because of I was in that yoga teacher training. So today I'm going to be, this is the 6th one, and not 6th annual, but the 6th SPURT retreat. So we're going to sit around here, and I'll probably have some people talk in and do some live from SPURT over this weekend. It might be a little convoluted here and there, but I'm going to have some people sit down, maybe get 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, and put this thing together. So I hope you all enjoy it. Once again, you can go out to spiritualunderground.org. I'm probably going to have pictures of this retreat on there. We're kind of like throwing our anonymity away, and got to be a little bit more or less anonymous in order to share what we have here. So if everybody's on board with that, there may be pictures and that kind of thing on the spiritualunderground.org of the retreat. These getting out and doing these things together just builds a deeper connection, and just every time somebody ends up with the coffee, hang on just a second, I'll just make it loud. Hey, would somebody turn them burners down on that coffee? Please? You got to be real careful. See, the coffee's boiling over. About time to get that going. So I will sign off, and I'll put a pause button on this thing, man, and we will pick it up here and there throughout the weekend. Peace out for now. Good morning. We are sitting here on Saturday morning of SPURT 6. My plan this weekend was to sit down and have people sit down with me at the microphone and just do 3 or 5 minutes or something, or talk about what these kind of retreats and what these get-togethers mean to them, or really anything that's on their mind at the time. So on this Saturday morning, as everybody's rolling out of bed and people are standing around drinking coffee, and we got the fire going and kind of waiting for everybody to roll out one by one, I've got Nick sitting here with me to talk for a minute on what he has to say. So you're welcome as the first guest this morning on the SPURT 6 podcast.
Good morning, Dan. Yeah, man, this is a special place to me. I've been up here a number of times, and something magical always happens up here. I was sharing this last night around the fire. I have kind of a routine when I pull into this place. I get a couple miles away and I start shutting down all modern technology, start turning off the phone, turning off the radio, even the air conditioner, roll the windows down, start becoming one with this, because to me, the outside rules just don't really apply here. This is a place where we get real deep spiritually, and things that might be a weakness out in the real world become powerful here. Being vulnerable with each other, really telling the truth, showing our weakness. That's the things that just really get powerful here and really change lives. And so I just love getting into that mindset, love disconnecting from all of those outside stressors and deliberate manufacturers of misery.
Yeah, none of that here.
No.
Or you got to work for it.
Yeah, you really gotta want to be miserable when you're here.
Yeah.
It does not come naturally to me here.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And this atmosphere, and I don't know what the difference really is, why, but when we're in those walled rooms in town and stuff, it really is just a totally different energy, And here, I feel that safeness and that, and you just hear people talking and sharing and stuff that I don't normally hear. You won't necessarily hear in town.
Yeah, well, and I've been camping and backpacking and stuff most of my life. To me, there's not much more profound spiritual experience to be had than a group of men sitting around a fire cooking meat.
Amen.
That's something that is thousands of years old.
Yep.
And it does seem to really connect me with a part of my soul that doesn't get connected to without that stuff.
Yep, right.
Yeah, it cuts deep.
An ancient spiritual tradition as old as they can come. Probably before even speeches.
Yeah, absolutely. And it does seem to uncover things in me that, I'm sure I could connect to some other way, but it's pretty easy to connect to that here.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you for sitting down here. We'll see how many people and how many times, and I'm not really going to have any rules up about it. I know some people maybe won't want to talk.
Sure.
And I'm going to kind of maybe goad some others into maybe trying to sit down that maybe probably wouldn't talk if I didn't do that too. So
yeah.
Thanks for being the first guest, man. You mean a ton to me, and it's just a blast to be doing this.
Thank you, Dan, and thank you for your generosity.
Thanks, man. Welcome back, everyone. I'm going to patch these things together throughout the weekend and keep on recruiting you guys to come sit at the microphone and give little tidbits and share a little juice on what's going on here this weekend. So I've invited Shane over to share a little bit of what he's got happening in his life today.
Hey, Dan. I just want to say, first off, thank you so much for hosting this. This is an amazing, amazing place to come to. I think this is my fifth one. I think fourth or fifth.
Yeah, I don't know.
I can't remember. I can't keep count, but I know I look forward to each and every one of them. Every time I've came here, I've grown more and more every time. Something else has happened, and I've gotten more friends every time. I get closer to somebody else I didn't think I could get close to. Somebody shares the experience that they never told anybody in their life. Man, that's pretty cool stuff. Being vulnerable here and just hanging out with my best friends, it's just an amazing feeling. When we were doing that meditation earlier, I could hear the birds in the background, and I was listening to the birds. And I used to hunt a lot. I used to spend a lot of time in the woods, and I always listened to the different sounds the birds made, and I knew what they were kind of talking about, if you know what I mean. And today, all I heard was just their happy chirps. That was it. They weren't scared of anything. It was like the energy was so cool here that the birds are even cool, and they weren't making their little alarm chirps and different noises they make when they see people and things like that.
Content type noises coming from
I'm
this
getting
morning.
goosebumps right now just thinking about that, because it was just really cool that the energy was so cool that it didn't even bother them. They were enjoying it too, man. That was a cool little experience I had here for real. The meditation we had yesterday, where we went inside and went to a place and where we were hurt when we were younger, and as a child, and console that child. Dude, that was a cool experience.
No doubt.
I've been thinking about that for a while, and I was hoping somebody would get something out of it, and it sounded like a couple people did.
Oh, yeah. All right, man. Next up, we got Jesse. He's come over to share a little bit about what's going on. We just got done with breakfast a little while ago, and Shane come over and shared and run a few people through. We should be having the last few people. Looks like a car's coming down the driveway right now, coming in, and then we'll have our true opening meeting and meditation, and actually move forward with programming all weekend. What's going on, Jesse?
Hey guys. Day 2 here, I guess. Woke up a little bit slow today. It was a juicy night last night, and I think the sleep did me really good. But the one thing I see so far this time is the interconnectedness of everything. I shared early at the meeting last night, and by the time 20 other people shared, I could have shared about 5 or 10 more things that I didn't at the beginning, and it just made me realize how similar we all are, and how just this environment and being out in nature and aligning with nature helps us to align with each other and just bring out some of that energy that normally wouldn't come out when you're in a church basement or otherwise a formal public building of some sort.
Yeah, I mentioned that earlier too. There are some walls. Inside those walls create some different energy that's kind of closes you down, and out here in the great wide open, I think it actually does. It opens my heart and opens my spirit up to be able to share and do some things I can't do in those enclosures.
And it was quick too. We jumped right in. Sometimes there's a little bit of introduction and all this, and
most of us know each other too. We always have a couple. Like we got 2 people here today that a lot of people don't know, and it's always on my heart somehow or another to invite some people that are not necessarily normal regulars. And I always just run with that, And matter of fact, Brian is one of the guys who was invited last time around. It was kind of on the outside, and now here he is back again. So that's cool.
You could see the hesitance in him, but he made it, you know. And I think he's happy for that.
Well, you're talking about Brian L.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Brian D. was here last time, and he was one of the ones that was brand new. This is actually the first time that Brian L. has been here, so yeah. So
and he brought the juice right off the bat.
Yeah. I like to do a little count and see how many people are here for the first time. I did do the little count and saw that we have 12 people in their first year of sobriety, which is, the number doesn't surprise me, the number 12, and it's cool to have, again, what people get to have and coming into things like this and get-togethers like this in early recovery is, that's something special.
Yes, sir. I just enjoy being here again. I was here in the spring of 2017, so it's been 2 years.
Has it?
Yeah, and you just don't get this kind of experience or opportunity in a lot of places.
Yeah, I'm blown away that I get to do this.
Right.
Cool, man. Well, thank you for sitting down for a minute. Looks like somebody else pulled in, and I'm trying to somewhat manage that's Greg, so cool. He's supposed to have the food, so hopefully he come in with the meat, and my anxiety can be subsided now that I know the food is here. Thanks, Jesse. Love you, buddy.
Love you too.
Hey guys, sitting down again. Got Brandon, the original Juice Man, sitting here with me this time, so we'll see what he has to say about his experience so far at SPURT 6. What's going on, Brandon?
How you doing? I'm good. Yeah, so this is my first SPURT. It's my first SPURT. It's the sixth one, but it's my first one, and it's my first one because the first 5 that you guys did, I wasn't as connected with you gentlemen as I am today. And I think I was always invited, but the place that I was at in my recovery at the time, I guess probably when you started them, I was somewhere between 14 years sober and 16 years sober. I'm 16 years sober now, so I think it was somewhere around 14. During that point of my recovery, I had slipped into I was dry. I was pretty dry, I had slipped into this mindset that, I felt, a lot of my attention went to work and the family, and only was doing the bare minimum for my program, and just didn't feel like I could devote an entire weekend to it, because at that time my mindset was focused on other things, and so that's why I missed the first, first 5, I believe. But I finally, snapped out of it last year, and kind of realized that I was miserable, and it was strange. It was a strange. I think what I'm talking about now is the reason why I'm here. It started last year, because I had a good life on paper. I got money. I got a business. I got a beautiful wife who loves me. 2 beautiful kids, I got friends, but I was still miserable, and I couldn't figure out why am I so damn miserable, and it's because I was working all the time. Work had become my main priority, and not to say my higher power, but essentially, it was taking, first, it was getting all of my attention, so essentially it kind of was, but then finally snapped out of it and realized I needed to get back, closer to the center of the boat in AA, and you guys made that very easy and very attractive to want to do that, and so that's why I'm here today, because of the last 6, 8, 9, 10 months, however long it's been now since I've recommitted, to the program, at a deeper level. I've started making better decisions and choices, and taking actions to connect with you guys each individually in a lot of ways, but also, in these, I've been saying yes to all these group things that we've been doing. And so that's why I'm here. I'm here to experience my first SPURT and to deepen my connection with my buddies, because, I've done a lot of these kinds of things over the course of my sobriety, and they're always good. I mean, it's always a soul enriching, bond forming, really good time. Yeah. And I know that, and so I had no doubt, zero doubts that the rest of this weekend is going to be awesome as well, because it just is. Anytime you get, a collective, group like us, all on the same pathway, deep, shutting out the world and deepening their bonds, together for a whole weekend. Only good things are going to come from it. Like, there just is no bad scenario. It's just all good. Yeah. So that's why I'm here, to help continue on experiencing the good, the best of all the good stuff available. So that's it.
Awesome,
That's
Brandon.
my
Thank
story.
you for sitting down for a few minutes with us, man. I'm going to keep on seeing. I'm going to jump up and see check on a couple things and make sure everything's going and see if I can't get a few more of these before the official noon meeting begins.
Yeah.
Love you, Brandon.
You too, brother.
Hey everybody, I wrangled up another guest over here. He's a first-time SPURT attendee, and actually there's sometimes, for whatever reason, every time I get led as I do these things, somebody will come into my life and I'll get led to invite them when they're not really in part of the in-crowd thing, not the in-crowd, but they're just not my home group members. Mostly this is home group members of Spiritual Underground, and Marshall here and Mark had started coming to the Spiritual Underground, and I don't know, I just felt led to add them in and throw an invite their way, see if they wanted to come and join us for this weekend. And Marshall's sitting here going to share a little bit with us.
And thanks, Dan, for inviting us. I really appreciate it. I was super excited whenever Mark texted me and said, hey, it's kind of out of the blue, kind of short notice. He said, but Dan has invited us to come out to the retreat. And I was ecstatic. It was like I was excited, and I was also nervous, but more excited. So I really appreciate that. Thanks for inviting me here.
Yeah, man. So has anything stuck out in particular, or so far, since you came early yesterday, you got here around same time everybody most time come in, what was it, noonish, one-ish, someplace in that neighborhood, early afternoon?
Mm-hmm.
Got your tent set up?
Yeah, just the fellowship that we've been having has been great. What stuck out to me so far, it's still early, but was when we did after the meeting yesterday, the Lord's Prayer.
Oh yeah.
And just the unison that everybody did that with, and it was just fantastic. It was just all one voice, and it just gave me chills, and I just felt I don't know, the energy just 10 times right there. It was great.
Yeah, man. Cool. Well, I'm really glad you guys came. We'll keep on touching base on it. I'm just going to wrangle people up as we go, and I am kind of particularly interested in hearing some people that have not been here before and their take on it. These retreats, being the host of them is one thing, but I also watch people grow, and I always see people. There's a little transformation that happens here over these weekends, and I get to kind of be a part of it. And actually, as facilitator of these things, get to have a little of the credit of participating in my recovery in that way, as I get to give back what this place has meant to me over the years. This is a very sacred spot to me, this area out here, and I've been coming here since someplace in 1969, 1970. I'm a 1969 model. I've been coming here all my life, even before I remember it. I can go over around the pond, and the pine trees that are around the pond. A lot of them I remember going around with a little red wagon behind my dad, and we planted those pine trees as just little sticks. And now they're actually, some of them are reaching their lifetime. It was an erosion control thing is what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was just washed away, topsoil was washed away, and pines was the only thing that would really grow, they said. So we planted those over around the pond. Now they're a lot of them are mature trees, actually dying because they're mature. Cool, man. Sure, appreciate you sitting down with me for a minute, man, and we will continue to do this all weekend.
You've created a very serene place. You ought to be proud.
Yeah, man. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Dan.
Hey, welcome y'all again. We're back. We just had our afternoon opening meeting. A little out of bounds, a little bit. It's not out of bounds, really. This thing is stretched out to 3 days, and I really always do noon to noon on Saturday to Sunday. So really noon on Saturday is really the big opening thing. That's when everybody is present. So we try to get to doing that. And another guest we've added over here, you've heard Frank just not too long ago. Asked him to sit down and share a little of his experience and what he's feeling today here at SPURT 6. Hi, Frank.
Hey, Dan. I gotta say, my first thought was, I want to be on look at the microphone. So I had a moment of a freeze, but I just like to say that because it's the truth. But I've been coming to most all of these spurts, and for me, they just keep getting better. I gotta say that just a couple things. I mean, there's obviously all the camaraderie, and I've never felt so close to a bunch of men as I feel to you guys.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
no
just
doubt.
beautiful, and it's kind of odd to feel myself love all these guys too. It's different for me, but and that gives me chills just talking about it. But it's like an experience like no other. It's kind of almost hard to describe. We had a kind of a gathering this morning or afternoon, and did some meditations, and everybody shared, and it occurred to me, in what kind of a gathering, if anything like that, have I ever experienced? Every person shared personal and powerful stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there was one bullshitter in the group.
No doubt.
Really don't think there was.
The gloves come off.
Yeah, they do, buddy. And I tell you, one of the things that happened to me, I always learned some stuff about myself.
Me too.
Deeper.
Yeah.
Deeper, and I've been going into my childhood and re-looking at some of this stuff that first I maybe thought, I've dealt with this 100 times now, but I can still see it play in my life.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I almost need a notepad. I really am. I'm almost a little bit like thinking that, but and it's another one of these things where I don't want to look. The same as what Christopher shared about not wanting to move out of the sunlight. My head talking to me.
That was great.
That same thing tells me that I shouldn't sit there and take notes.
Mm-hmm.
But I really do wish that I had, because there's some things in there that because it's so much sharing. We have, I think, 28 people here at that new meeting today.
Right.
Every single person shared something, and I can't mentally keep track of all of it.
No, I can't either.
And there was 3 or 4 things that I lost. They might probably bubble back up.
No.
But there was a couple things that I had intentionally tried to recall, and then I get to listening to a guy down that shares, 2 or 3 more down the row.
Yeah.
And I forget what that guy a few shares ago said that I was intentionally going, me too, kind of thing, going, I need to take a look at that. Something is resonating with me.
Oh, yeah. And that happened with a bunch of guys, and I have to say I have the same experience, actually, now that I think about it, because I come away with all this stuff I've heard, and that's already just a portion of what's actually been said.
Yeah.
And then when I start living in the life, like 2 weeks later, I have even less left, So, I mean, I don't know, I agree with notes. I'm not a very good note taker, but I can see actually,
I wouldn't need much to make it recall.
No.
I'm not looking like jot down sentences and stuff, but just like a bullet point of some issue, and it would jog my memory enough if I would just do that.
Well, what I thought of is, for me, I use like notes, my
your
iCloud
phone.
notes. Yeah, and I thought that's what I'll do, because that always works for me. And I thought, wait a minute, everybody will think that I'm
Yeah,
on
everybody
my
thinks
phone.
you're texting. Of course, they don't think so here, because
No,
you can't.
no.
We don't have. That's one of the other
No,
good things, man. When you see someone with their phone in their hand, they're either playing solitaire or taking notes, because there's no cell service down here where you're going to be texting or checking Google or Facebook or something.
That's right. A guy was talking about how that's a ritual for him. And it gets to a certain point, I guess he just turns his phone off or something, and that makes sense to me too, because it's really nice.
Yeah, it is nice.
And
I make these little trips out to check on people that are supposed to be here that aren't.
Right.
I'm worried about them being lost, and I mean, last night's timing was perfect, because I had that feeling that somebody, I needed to check on Brian, and I actually caught him when there was still time.
Wow.
He was up here where I could catch him and get him turned around before
Got
he
too
left.
bad.
But we lost somebody today. Didn't really lose him, but he come all the way here and turned around and went home. But when I'm up there, where I was going at with that is, when I go up there, I'm tempted to look at other shit on my phone. Because I go up there and get that service, and I have one goal. I'm just looking to touch base with these 1 or 2 people, whoever I'm needing to. I want to touch base with Bo, and I want to touch base with BMO, those 2 guys. And I did that, and then try to just leave those big red bubbles on Facebook and all that alone, and come back down the hill.
Yeah, I hear you.
Cool, man. Well, thanks for sharing a few minutes
My
with me,
pleasure.
man. It's going to be fun to put this little podcast. Plus, it'd be kind of neat, as a memoir in a way, to go back and listen to this someplace down the
can't
pike,
wait. Yeah, that's going to be fun as hell. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Cool, man. Go. I think you wanted to get in the pond, don't you?
I'm going to be swimming in the pond with the
Awesome,
snakes.
man.
That's right. I don't care.
Cool. Y'all can take that wheeler.
No, I want
All
to
right,
walk.
man. Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, Frank.
Do that.
All right, now been away from the table for about 2 minutes, enough to get a big handful of popcorn somebody brought, because the few of us are doing some kind of food challenge. I really haven't been doing it, but I try to watch my diet pretty well. But this weekend I'm off the chain. I'm going to eat what I want to eat when I want to eat it. And there's a lot of junk food on that table. It's hard to stay out of it. That phenomenon of craving happens. I get some of that salt, I get some of that sugar, and then I want another handful and another handful and another handful. And And we got good dinner coming up tonight, too, so I don't want to overeat on all that junk either. I got Christopher.
What's up, guys?
Sitting down at the podcast table here. We're just sitting up and got a little spot backed off away from everybody where we can take some...
in the middle of the woods. I want to know how many podcasts are out there actually recording in the middle of nature like this.
Yeah, we're a good ways
That'd be an interesting thing to search at. I'm not aware of any.
I am not either.
I mean, how cool would that be if a guy in Colorado is like up in the mountains and he's doing this out in the middle of the wild with somebody? I mean, that's got to be a totally different vibe for people to share, right?
Yeah.
That is so cool.
Yeah, I would imagine, like right now, the birds are quiet. Earlier in the day, they were peeping and calling and things like that. And somebody had mentioned that the sounds the birds are making here are not an alarm sound. They're calm and content.
Shane
and
said that.
All that, yeah. And so, but right now it's quiet.
And what he said was to me that when he used to hunt, he would actually get aligned with their warnings, and he could tell that something was coming by the change in their chirping and everything. Yeah. It's very peaceful out here, man. You got a great place. So my experience with retreats, and if there's anybody in recovery or anybody out there, period, if you ever get the opportunity and get wind that there's a retreat, especially of same sex, where it's all men or all women, take a risk and do this for yourself. It was one of the greatest gifts I gave me in my earliest recovery. I think I was sober about 3 or 4 years, and I was actually going to a different 12-step fellowship. I hadn't found this cool vibe. You got to remember, I got sober in 83, so it was a little bit different history.
Yep.
They didn't talk about touchy feelings and stuff in there and inner child crap. You get kicked out of there for that. But I went to another fellowship that was much more intimate and kind of sharing that we do. And they talked about we're going to have this retreat. We're going to go off in the Minnesota Northwoods and be up there for 3 days in cabins, and there's no electricity, and you're going to rough it. And I was like, not my idea of fun, thank you. I already had my weekends planned out, and most of it's unhealthy behavior, sitting around doing nothing, eating crappy food, watching TV, all that garbage we do. And I don't know where it changes, just somewhere I said, well, take a risk. Dude's supposed to do new things in sobriety, right? So I go out there, and I wouldn't say immediately, because of course you got that condemnation prior to investigation. Even when you first show up, you're looking at the sleeping arrangements, and you're looking at it's going to get fucking cold up in here. How are we going to keep warm? It's Minnesota, right? It was like early spring, and it was cloudy and moody and windy and sort of that drizzly rain kind of thing. Well, once we got the sharing going, that loosened everybody up, and that's typically what happens on a retreat. Is the first day they're just like trying to leave that baggage behind from your job and your family. And then that night, they had the drum circle deal. And I'd never been involved in anything like that. And, of course, for anybody y'all listening, your first reaction is, well, that's stupid. I'm going to get out in the woods and hit a bunch of jumping drums like, what the new age crap. And I know you're thinking that. I know, because I was too. And we didn't really bring anything. Some other people had. So I found this, like, big old trash can, rubber trash can, and a stick. We started going, and we're all finding this rhythm, and it's a campfire, right? And it's night, and we're all finding this rhythm. We just started going, and there was like this total share. We've had other ones here that sometimes it clicks, sometimes it doesn't. I gotta be honest, this is the only time that I felt like it was completely clicking. There's something very amazing happened in that moment. Very, very primal connection of communication between the beats and all that. And a couple of the guys were professional musicians. I think that helped to keep us on track.
Absolutely.
And we just went somewhere with it. And meanwhile, half the guys had already left and gone to the cabin go sleep. And those half that left missed all that.
Missed it.
And then we got the idea that and then what happened was, this is really cool, I forgot this part. After that, we all got quiet. It just, the drums, it just died, right? The whole thing died. And nobody said a word for 2 hours. I'm not even exaggerating. We sat there and stared in the fire, the 10 of us, 12 of us, how many it was. And we were there together, and nobody said a flipping word for 2 hours, just being with the fire and nature.
Yeah.
And the spirit of what we had created with that experience. And then we all decided, okay, well, we got to get some sleep because we're going to be tore up for tomorrow. But we want to get up and see the sunset. So we went back to the cabins. I think we slept off 2 or 3 hours, and we got up before the sun came up. And it was flipping freezing. And we all took our blankets down to the lakeside, and we all cuddled up together. About 6 of us, only 6 of us made it for that. And we got to see the sun come up over the lake with the fog and the loons going in Minnesota and all that. And,
very cool.
And I will tell you that I came home from that experience with my entire energy shifted. And my spiritual growth went to another level just from one weekend. I know that sounds not possible, but I know for a fact in my early recovery that was not only that, but it's one of my fondest memories. And a lot of people in earliest recovery who might be listening to this are going to say, I just want to get through this. I wish I had 5 years, right? I wish I had 10 years. They all say that. I wish I just were not here. And I tell them in my group, I said, you guys do not appreciate this, but when you get sober long term, you are actually look back on your first year of sobriety with a fondness.
Yeah.
Because you are learning things and growing in ways that you just can't later in your sobriety, right? Because it's leaps and bounds, whereas later in sobriety it's more inching ahead kind of deal. And so don't rush it. Go on these deals, go on these little journeys, and try these things. What do you think about all that, Dan?
I think all that is awesome, man.
Yeah.
I like the drum circle thing, and that's one of the. I went on a different spiritual thing. Was just a one-day deal. It's the first time I experienced one. They waited till the sun went down. They built.
Where'd
a
you
fire.
go?
It was up in Mount St. Francis, down by the lake.
It's
and
beautiful
it was,
up there.
Happy, and some people had put together a thing where they had people walking those labyrinths and essential oils and crystals, and he did a singing bowl meditation and a whole bunch of different things. There was somebody up there using the pendulums on you,
What's that?
giving a reading, holding a chain and
Yeah.
a pendulum crystal on you,
Yeah.
and reading energy
Nice.
in your body and see like where the blocks and stuff were at. They were doing Reiki, so it was like a whole big bunch of like new energy type of sharing and different ways to like look at ways to enlarge your spiritual life is what I would say.
And how long were you sober at that time?
I wasn't.
So you must have been like dubious, standing aside, going, "What's this?"
It was in that period of when I had broken into that house, but was waiting on the consequences and haven't found you all yet. So I had some people around that I smelled something I wanted, and so I kept on. But what I was doing, I was playing sober for everybody. I was sneaking off and doing my thing when nobody was looking. But in these times, I was walking in there. So there was some kind of push-pull thing going on. Something pulling me there, but then also disease was wanting to pull me out of it at the same time. But we had that same rhythm thing go on. And I think the very first drum circle we did here was by far
I felt
the
that
best
the
too,
first
where
one was real good.
Yeah, because it's like when nobody really knows what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody's really trying because nobody has. Yeah, so that's super cool.
Once again, what? Overthinking it.
Yeah,
That's the
right,
deal.
yeah.
You can't overthink when you're letting go like that.
Yeah. And I think what's another fantastic thing here is when we looked around, I know, and they're not all here today. Well, one of them is not going to make it now, so that brings it actually down to 11 people in their first year of recovery are here this
That's
weekend.
awesome.
Yeah, and you're
That's
talking
like a
about
third of the
taking
group.
advance- Yeah, it's a third of the group. Yeah, so that's pretty cool to me.
I mean, like I said, it took me 2 or 3 years to go on my first one, and I think if I had gone my first year as an example like these guys, it would have set me on a path of knowing that there is more available in recovery. But hell, that wasn't talked about in the early 80s. It was real strict. It was almost like that old religion thing, like if you go outside the lines, oh my God, that's against Bill Wilson, what are you doing? That works for the devil, man. You probably got to get drunk. Keep it simple. That's the one phrase that's always cracked me up the most. Keep it simple. I'm sorry. I'm not really a simple person. And that was one of the things that actually kept me out of AA. So I said, well, maybe that simple shit's okay for you kindergarten level cretins who need that sort of, okay, let's break it down to ABC. And I'm being light on this, obviously, guys, because I had to break it down to be simple. Keep it simple, stupid was helpful to me, but sometimes it can be used as an abusive thing, a way of disregarding. Someone's trying to bring you something new. And hey, look at this neat thing. You might want to consider trying this because this could really take your spirituality, even if you're an old timer, right? Yeah. It might actually help you to grow. And immediately they go, that's keep it simple. Yeah. Just read your big book, don't drink, and go to meetings. Well, if I could do that, I wouldn't need you fuckers.
Right. Yeah, there's nothing more, a few things more discouraging than when you have something that's working for you and lighting you up, and you take it to somebody and want to share it, and they shut you down.
Or
stomp on it, and they like, hey, no. And man, that's especially, man, you're sitting here the juice that happens when you're trying to get this early sobriety thing and you're feeling that happening to you, and then somebody comes and steps right on you, man.
It's awful.
That's bullshit.
That's the first moment a newcomer might be opening up. They're very fragile.
Yeah.
And, I have seen people who got stomped by an old timer, and then immediately they just said, well, screw it. I'm not going to even come anymore. And they die. And I love when Bill Wilson talks about that. And anything anybody wants to challenge me on as far as it being outside the material, I'm like, well, you're talking to a big book thumper, and I know that fucking book. On page 103, Bill Wilson himself said intolerance of any kind. Many lives could have been saved had it not been for such stupidity. Yep. And he also said that intolerance is the only thing that's going to rip us apart as a fellowship. So that means if a guy wants to go off and chant in the woods and it helps his spirituality, and he's not doing the 11-step, 86, 87, 88.
Yeah.
Fuck that. He's staying sober. He's finding his God, which is what this whole trek is about, is finding a higher power that works for you.
And, that's why I like the clarification on the 11-step in the TSSR book, is because it has other things, It's not
I thought hard on that when I was writing it, because it does sound like a mouthful when you're trying to read that step the way it is. But I had to acknowledge the fact that so much has changed since I came in 35 years ago, that there are so many other practices that a person could use. That you look at the 1930s. Did Bill really have crystals and all that stuff? I mean, available to him on Wall Street. Maybe if he lived in New Mexico or some crazy place at the time.
Yeah.
Excuse me, guys. They might have had it, but I don't think Bill would have been exposed to it.
Yeah. Well, I'm just tickled pink to be doing this and having these guys sit around. You always have some people making some breakthroughs. Like some people that are from not necessarily in our inner circle participating too, throw the lasso out just a little bit wider every time. Total juice. Well, you got any closing thoughts on this one?
I wish the whole world could have this, and what we're running into as one of those resistance things to try and share it with the rest of the world is that thimbleful, no thank you, I'm fine, what I have is enough. And I hope I never reach the point where I'm like, what I have is enough. I hope I continue to be hungry to search for greater and more. And I think that's going to help me stay sober. I think the other way I would just get dry, and I probably wouldn't come to meetings anymore, because why would I if I'm going to hear the same stuff over and over?
Yeah.
So I wish everybody could have this, and please, guys, it's now available. Get on our website, talk to us, contact Dan. He will help you find this. If you want to change, this will change your entire existence. And then let me say one thing, last thing on that, and I'll shut up. I try to tell people when I'm working with them on this is these tools will change your entire path in life. And the most basic example is an alcoholic, right? Where you're sitting at home doing drugs and alcohol all day and no use to anybody. And then now we're out there in our lives being of use to our families and our jobs and the government and society and communities. But even more than that, it changes our whole spiritual path. So that now I'm pursuing a career that's more based in helping others than the bottom line of my paycheck or how much I'm going to have in my 401k. And I'm happier for following that path. And I think people underestimate tremendously what this work can do for you. You'll find your true purpose on this planet. And I hate the idea of dying without finding out why I was supposed to be here. Yeah, you did this and this and this, but was that exactly what you were supposed to do? And then the people in our group this morning who were questioning, I don't even know if I'm married to the right person I'm supposed to be married to.
Yeah.
Because I got married in the madness. And it's not that I don't love her, but I'm questioning if this is the person I'm destined to be with.
Yep.
And I know it's scary, guys, to open up those questions. Believe me, I'm a creature of habit and familiarity myself. But if you're willing and you try these tools, there's a slow process where God will edge you gradually towards these changes. You don't get just cast out and all of a sudden you get a divorce. Yeah. You just get awakened slowly to this new path. And it's so much better than what else is going on out in that world right now. Would you agree with that?
I agree 100%. Yeah, man. Limitations. And and getting in that rut, some people shared about that today, and that's some of what I talked about last night was the fact that we begin to believe that what is happening right now is what we're going to be stuck with forever. That there's no change, there's no movement, and almost resigning yourself to just going, okay, this is as good as it gets. Whether it's in that marriage or the job or whatever it happens to be that you're doing.
And I wanted to interject this. It's almost like we get this fear all of a sudden like God's going to abandon us even though he hasn't before.
Yeah.
We get this higher power in our lives through this work, and it carries us through amazing challenges and then brings us all this good stuff. And all of a sudden we get this drought, famine type mentality like, oh, well, I've used that up. God's just going to drop me now and then nothing's going to change. We do hear that a lot from people.
Yep.
So
I think it's, the bus stops here,
and
it does
it's as good as it gets.
Yeah. If you step off, it will.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. Well, thank you for sitting in
Dan.
for a few minutes here, and that's
love you guys. Christopher, you're on the mic. Come see us.
Hope we get a whole bunch more voices on here before the weekend's over with. I have to have some discipline to keep on doing it, so that come on over. Thank y'all. We'll be back in a little bit. Hello, everyone. I'm back. It's been a little while. It is almost 11:30 p.m. We've just had our evening SPURT meeting, and we went from, I think, around 7:30 to 11:30. If my math is right, that's about 4-hour meeting. Just really powerful stuff, and we sit around. We don't put no limits on it. I think we could probably sit around that fire and share all night.
Yes.
If we wanted to. But I've asked Mike to come up here and talk for a few minutes and share some of this SPURT retreat, this retreat juice, and any other thing he feels like sharing tonight. How's it going, Mike? How you feel?
Great. Better, far better than just a huge difference between last year and this year.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I remember last year I was here about the same time last year, and I've been, the listeners out there don't know this, but I've been through a pretty difficult time, and I was just withdrawn and in the pit of depression, and just I sat and felt like I was, even though we're outside here, which has been great. A year ago, I was like sitting in the corner hiding.
Yep, I could feel that. Yeah, it's real tough for you to come in and be one of us, and it's a way different energy this year.
Oh yeah, definitely, and just. The energy has been great, and I've been more present to really listen to people and recognize where I'm honestly being way too self-centered. But I feel such a positive energy now because I don't have to browbeat myself about that. I just recognize it for what it is, and I can let it go.
Yeah, man. Yep.
And just the fact that prior to coming here, just the past few weeks, really allowing myself to accept the love that's been expressed to me by all these guys.
Yeah.
And just recognize it instead of having my walls up, my barriers up, and discounting
basically
it.
Denying it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I've been doing for a long time, is denying what was right in front of me, clearly accessible. And I was full of fear and afraid nobody loved me, and afraid they, because all the crying and stuff like that I've done, that nobody cared. And
Thank you.
I don't need a mic from you, man.
Sure.
Yeah. We got a guy come up. He's his first time ever at SPURT. So say hi, Bo. Just jump on that microphone right there by Mike and say hi. Just give a few words about what you think about tonight.
Hello, my name is Bo Evans. I'm an alcoholic. Tonight was great. We got real vulnerable, shared a whole lot, and exposed our disease. Helped one another, and helped each other on this journey of life.
Is this something you want to continue doing?
It is.
How old are you?
18.
18. Wow. See, that's the difference, man. Yeah, for a dude who can be getting some of these tools in his life at that age and change, man, it is the world is your oyster. No shit, man.
that's awesome.
Don't let everybody leave without saying bye to me, okay?
Okay.
So anyway, just this is probably the best thing that's happened to me in 3 or 4 years or more. I admit when I was getting up Friday morning to come out here, I was in my usual rut and thinking, oh, I don't want to go. And, I'm just discouraged and just the usual rut I'd woken up into. No more than I drove up near your house to catch a ride with everybody. Shane just jumps up and down and says, Mikey, or whatever he said,
Yeah.
And I knew that things were going to be different. And I had to be open.
Yep. No doubt about it,
open.
man. You got to let everybody in.
So,
got to come in, open the doors, and be a part of. And that is one of the things that we do have a little bit of a choice about here, is are we going to make that choice to be present, like you said, and
definitely.
be a part of when everybody's standing there with their arms open and you don't walk in.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the guy that didn't come down the road tonight.
Right.
The arms was wide open, man, and he just couldn't drive in.
Yeah. And just recognizing, allowing yourself to receive the love and appreciation and connectedness that you have, instead of being fearful and blocking it all off.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So it's a great experience.
Yeah. It's always great, man. Well, cool. I'm going to try to get a few people to come over here and sit down before the night gets over with. So I'm gonna see who else I can trap here.
Great.
Thanks, Mike. Love you to death, man.
Love you too.
All right, welcome back again. We've got my buddy Charlie sit down. He's his first spurt also, and Charlie's one of the 12 people that were here, or actually 11, because the one guy we were just talking about that wouldn't come down through the gate. One of the 11 people here that are in their first year of recovery. Charlie has worked his 12 steps, and we're doing the tail end of things, but he's had the actual awakening happen in his life that he's shared tonight. It's just what we say, completely revolutionized, right? Ain't it? Welcome, Charlie.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, share a little juice about what you think about the retreat.
Oh, the retreat for me has been...
Get about fist away from the microphone. And you
Okay,
can pull the
let's try.
microphone to you or pull you to the microphone, either one.
I'm a seat adjuster. I'll move the seat. The Spiritual Underground retreat for me has been a very awesome experience. You know, these things that happen in our lives that kind of get us pumped up and get us juiced, and we ride that, you know, into another chapter in other areas of our life. And this is just kind of another awesome event that we've had. And yeah, man, I'm feeling it right now. I love the camaraderie. I love the support. I love the love that we have out here around the campfire.
Yeah, man, it's really cool. And Charlie brought a couple guys from the recovery house that he just moved out of, so he's carrying this message and helping other people come and get it too. So got the juice of the Spiritual Underground and brought a couple guys with him tonight, so that's cool too. But they're heading back this evening, which is completely understandable. We say come for however much or however little you can come for. I tell people if they could come for an hour, it'd probably be worth it. Cool, man. Love you to death, and I'm going to sign off here and hug you goodbye.
I love you too.
Bye. Hey, sitting back down trying to grab up as many people with this post-Saturday night meeting juice that we got going on as I can get on the mic here tonight, because it's just really cool, and everybody's flowing. You can hear the conversations probably in the background. Ross is another guy who's in that first year of recovery. Matter of fact, Ross is someplace. How many days?
73.
73 days recovered today. And he's rocking it, and you can hear it in his voice and stuff. And just another one of these guys that's getting this, having his life revolutionized also, man. How you doing? What do you think about this whole thing?
Oh, my God. I'm doing great. Fabulous. The best thing I've ever felt was the second that I drove down this driveway and you met me at the bottom there. Fear went out the door. Anything I was afraid of at all. Driving up here, thinking about anything negative, my disease has no chance here. I feel it's amazing coming up here, just seeing all the camaraderie, all the honesty, everyone being vulnerable, and the brotherhood that it brings about being out in the woods here. Our meetings on Tuesday bring out a lot in everybody, but here it's just down. It's like peeling back the layers, and everybody can feel every single thing that the other person shared, and there's no judgment, just love.
Yeah, people said I like the angle a couple of people gave me was like in them walls and them enclosures, those man-made enclosures. This makes it a lot different energy. You know, you're closed in by concrete, metal, and all that. Mm-hmm. Out here, there's none of that, man. We're just right in the great wide open, which opens up personally, and I know this for a fact. It opens up my spirit. It really does to be able to be out here like this, and like there's a certain thing where my spirit feels free to be vulnerable and feel safe. You know, like the book tells me I'm safe and protected. I feel safe and protected here. Yep. With you all and otherwise. You know, I love to be here when I'm by myself. I'd always spend some time here solitary. Every fall at least I'll spend at least a week here.
Oh, cool.
By myself. I'll come and go as I want to. I go to country AA meetings out here and pale
nice.
English and stuff like that in the evenings because it's getting dark early, you know, so I can come back in from hunting and get me some dinner and then head out to a meeting and no problem whatsoever. But I love that solitude. My batteries get recharged here. Plus, this is the place I talk to God the best.
Yeah.
When I got questions going on in my life, this is where I come. I've read almost the entire TSSR book here.
Nice.
Sitting here, you know, when it was in manila folders. You know, and prior to a published book, I sat down here and read that.
Nice.
Manila folk, 8.5 by 11 by 8.5 by 11 pages. I listen to them getting all loud over there.
I know, right?
Yeah. Cool, man. Love you to death. Love you sharing, man. Love your energy. I'm just so glad you're getting this thing and that you're coming and being part of. And I know it doesn't necessarily come exactly natural for you either. I know that you do wrestle with some of that because it probably was, frankly, I would say, you know, you're probably not immune from turning around at the barricade and going home either, are you?
Life story.
Yeah. Because I thought you were meeting us at my house on Friday morning.
Yeah.
And then we were standing around. I was like, well, Ross is the only one that's not here. And then I guess Shane contacted you and said he's coming later. And when I always hear they're coming later, a lot of times what that means to me is that he ain't coming. I was like, dang, man. So I get a little bit bothered. You know, I got like, dang. And he said, no, he'll be here. He'll be here. And I was like, okay. Well, another thing I know about this retreat is that I know you're here when I see you standing here. Just because you say you're coming, I've had a lot of just flat out no shows, you know, people that you know, they got every intention of coming, man, and then I go home and they don't come to the retreat, and that actually frankly scares me a little because I don't know if they're out here lost or what, you know.
Right.
I mean, really, they could be in a damn ditch or something, you know. They could need some help. I don't know what happened. But then they pull this no-show on you, you know, and they don't come in, and, you know, you get home and you call them, and they're like, you know, usually they have some kind of excuse where something come up, you know. But dang, man, I mean, really, I've had this thing scheduled for 60 days at least.
Nice.
And so people who want to come are here.
Right.
People had enough time to rearrange your lives to get away for a weekend. And if your life is in a position where you can't come and do something like this, you really need, my personal feelings is you really need to come back and revisit what you got going on in your life, especially if you're an addict, alcoholic, that need the kind of help we need.
Well, I'll tell you before we close, and thanks for having me on your show here. TSSR, I did my steps through the TSSR book, and without you and Shane and Chris, without the brotherhood that I've had when I needed a phone call taken, and without the love and support, I would have never left my hotel room, because I started seeing myself slow down yesterday, not hurrying, wanting to get a haircut, wanting to do this, wanting to do that, and procrastinating because my disease wanted me to procrastinate a little bit. But you mind if I tell you one quick joke about how I used to be?
Yep.
You ever seen an elephant hide behind a tree? Huh? Have you ever seen an elephant hide behind a tree?
I have not.
That's how good they are at it. So that was me, the elephant hiding behind the tree thinking nobody could see me.
Yep, that is us, man. That's a good description of us, no doubt. Yep.
Now I'm just an elephant standing next to the tree.
Yep.
Because of people like you. Thanks, man.
Love you, man.
I love you.
So back again, man, I wrangled up a guy. I got a lasso up here. I throw it out there in the crowd, and I pull one out. Chase has come up here to talk a little bit about what's happening here at SPURT this weekend, where he's at, or any kind of particular feelings he's wanting to, man. Chase is a guy I've been watching and have seen grow tremendously. You were at, I guess last SPURT was the first one that you came to, right? So this is your second one?
This is my second one.
Yeah, and you'll be 2 years sober in July, right?
July 17th.
Yep, I know your sobriety date. Cool, man. What's going on? How you feeling?
Man, I'm feeling great. It's amazing to be out here. I'm having a lot more fun this time, I think, than I had last time, because you know, the first time we came out here, I'd never done any kind of retreat, and I'd had a lot of apprehensions about it, but I knew what we were doing this time, and I had tons to look forward to, and it just doesn't disappoint. And it's kind of blows my mind that we can, you know, like the stuff that we do really out here, it's not that profound. I mean, we're really just sitting around a campfire.
Right.
Sharing, talking, just like hanging out. But it's kind of, it's just strange because it's a different environment, different, it's just a different energy that brings out something else. I don't know, something different. And I think it's just kind of like, it's that safe environment that, you know, we go through our day-to-day with that kind of energy that you want to be able to share, to get out somehow. But
you have to kind of be careful with it.
You do
a little bit.
You have to be really careful with that.
You can't just throw that out to people that you work with, because if you give that kind of energy to somebody who's not ready for it, it doesn't.
The Bible calls it pearls before swine, casting your pearls before swine.
Right.
And I don't mean to Bible thump, but that logic is that old.
Exactly.
Of casting that's positive energy in front of people who can't appreciate it. It's actually causes we take a risk of our spirit getting stepped on with it, because then they kind of
it hurts.
Yep. And they kind of discount it because we got that negative bias thing. So when we hear somebody like poo-poo our shit, then we instantly give more weight to that negative stuff than we will to the other 31 guys sitting around the fire here with you tonight.
Yeah. So you got how many people are here?
32.
32.
We're sitting around that fire tonight.
So it's 32 guys sitting around a fire, talking about stuff that they've been wanting to express in a healthy manner for some of us for years, for lifetimes, and you get to do that, and it's an amazing experience. And we
really didn't talk anything about drinking and drugging.
I don't think we mentioned drinking.
I mean, you might be once in a while we'll say back when or something
might
like
have
that, but
come
it's always
up
just kind of in passing.
Yeah,
It's
hey,
never
by
that's
the way, I
never
used to
the
get
topic.
really drunk, but it wasn't like I don't remember talking. It's not what we talk about, which that blows my mind too, because when I first came into, whenever I first started doing this work, 12-step recovery work, it really it seemed like I'm gonna have to not drink. That was what I was gonna have to do, and I mentioned that at the end of that meeting. But I learned, my first AA meeting was almost 8 years ago now, and I've learned since then that I can't not drink. I'm not able to go about living not drinking, right?
Right.
That's impossible for me to do. I don't know about other people. I mean, we talk about white knuckling it. I can't white knuckle it.
Yeah, fuck that.
I can't. Well, I can't do it. I mean, I've tried to do it, and
painful.
Maybe I did it for like a week or so, but I'm not. I cannot do that. I tried for a long time, and I think that maybe I could, but I really don't want to. I don't want to try. It takes too much energy. If I white knuckle it, that's all I do. Is just not drink, and I can't live like that. And that's not what we do. We don't even talk. I mean, this is the most I've talked about drinking since we've been here.
Right. Yeah.
Which is it's crazy to me that that's not what we do here, though. We figure out a different way to deal with our thoughts in a productive manner. It's crazy. We a bunch of alcoholics sit around a campfire and we talk about ways to take our weird kind of our weird, we would say diseased minds, and figure out how to make them productive. So
I'm watching people go in the outhouse. I got the outhouse lights off in there, and I don't really.
He got it.
And, I didn't really announce. I actually meant to announce something about flipping that little light switch, because last night I had a propane light on, and that's like podcast kind of stuff they probably really don't care about. But there's a lot of little funny things that makes this podcast work, and that outhouse is one of them.
The outhouse right behind us.
It really is the limiting factor to this, besides this retreat, and I think this growth and the size it is tonight, man, is pushing the limit as far as having effective meetings. I really do feel that.
Yeah, that was a long one. How long did that go?
4 hours.
That's the longest meeting I've ever sat through.
And I had a 5-minute timer on everybody.
Yeah, that's good.
I don't know exactly how that all happened, but and jacking around, scaring somebody in the outhouse. I'm glad they don't try to tip it over or something.
This kind of group, this kind of fellowship, this kind of behavior is something that I have to learn how to do, because it's not really something that I easily am able to come out and fellowship with people. So it's doing stuff like this retreat is therapy for me, because I get to do this and then figure out how to deal with people outside of here too.
Yeah, right.
And that's
practice on these people.
Practice on you guys.
Yeah. Cool, man.
Yeah, that's all I got for.
Yeah, man. Thanks
right
for
now,
sharing, brother.
Yep.
Love you to death.
Love you, man. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, man. It's a lot of fun. Juices me up. Carries for a long time. Out for now. I'll grab up somebody else. Cool. I did. I throwed out the lasso and grabbed up another guy. I think they're all down there fellowshipping, and they don't want to come up here and get separated from the crowd down there. You know how you get separated from the herd. I don't know. Of course, there's some people that don't really want to be talking on this thing too. So, but thank you, Brian, for coming up here. Brian, so last night, this is kind of a funny story. I'll tell it as quick as I can. I'm sitting here last night, and I knew Brian was coming. And Brandon reminded me about it. And I was sitting in the middle, and we were having an evening meeting here, and it just dawned on me, like I said, shoot, man, what about Brian? So me and Brandon jumped on the back of the four-wheel. We went up to where we can get some cell service, because you can't get any cell service here at all. And I called him and texted him, and it just so happened he was out here in our neighborhood still trying to find us and couldn't find us. And the timing was just exactly perfect, because I don't think, if we'd let you go any further, or if you'd have been out of range and not got the message, or if you'd have been in certain places, because there's only certain hot spots out here.
That's it.
Yep. So we caught you and we lassoed you in here, and you didn't end up with the guy being the second guy that came to the barrels and turned around and went home.
No, that wouldn't have happened. I would have found a way, because I was so excited. I got off of work. I work in higher education. We had a graduation ceremony that ended at 8:30 down on 4th Street, and I ran to McDonald's on Broadway, changed out of formal wear into shorts and a t-shirt, and I was on my way. And there wasn't going to be any stopping this. I couldn't wait to be a part of this retreat and get away and fellowship and grow. And yeah, it's been a heavy year. So I need all of this I can get. I think this might be the first weekend in years that I've gone and done a thing with just the guys.
Dedicated something to you.
Yeah. So, man, I'm so grateful I did it.
Yeah, man, I'm glad you came too, man. It's just an awesome atmosphere, and I just love watching the energy of people after this has happened. And, here's another thing that maybe we would tend to end up sharing about it, is that, like, when we go back to the meeting on Tuesday night,
yeah,
there's a deeper bond between the guys that were here. And that's
probably
might be the flip side of that clique thing that people talk about, but you are invited. The problem is with that clique accusation is that we're standing here with our arms wide open, and anybody can come into it, man. And I try to do, and actually, since I've heard that a couple times now, I've actually made a real effort towards, like, not letting somebody stand outside the circle.
Yeah, I'm a believer that it's when you're new to sobriety, and you see somebody that is living happy, joyous, and free, and are genuine and really who they are and comfortable in their own skin, and you're just getting sober, that's incredibly intimidating. I mean, you might internally you're saying, I want that. But hell, I'm not going to go and tell you that. I mean, it's scary. It's just
we do enough of that. I can't have that either. That guy's different. I'm,
all of those things. I mean,
it might work for him, but it won't work for me.
Or what if I open up and I show my vulnerability and I try, and they think I'm a clown, or they shun me. I mean, that's what they're used to. So I don't fault. I think it's just. If they want it bad enough, they're going to see over time. They have to keep coming back. That's why we keep saying that, and they'll see that it's genuine, and they'll latch on.
Yep. Yeah, man.
You
wonder
know
who that is.
No
doesn't
clue.
matter. Yeah, somebody's driving out.
A couple guys were leaving tonight. I forgot who they were now.
No, Charlie and them, they already left. They
did?
left a little bit ago, and they're in a car. I saw them take off. They come over and said bye to me before they left. And actually, Charlie sat down here, and Bo stopped and said something to the microphone too. So, well, cool, man. Now we got an on-deck circle. I think that's why Jason is sitting over here. So,
thanks again, Dan.
We'll shift gears, man. I'm really just happy you're here. Happy everybody's here, but happy you're here. And I actually think, individually, I thank people for being and coming, because, I don't get to do this if nobody shows up.
I don't think you're going to have that problem. We sure love you, and I appreciate it.
Thanks, Brian.
All right, man.
Great.
All right, man. We have lassoed another one out of here. Jason was in the on-deck circle. He pulled up a chair here next to it so that wanted to be next. So I'm really digging this juice of putting this on here, because this synergy out of this thing is contagious, and I want to share it. This is important to me. It's something that you see in this group doing, and I know that we're not unique in that. Other groups have retreats and stuff, and you hear people talk about the growth spurts that are happening at those places too. So we certainly don't have a monopoly here, but this one, it's kind of like my problem. My problem's bigger than every other problem because it's mine.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is better than all the rest of them because it's ours. Hi, Jason. How's it going, man?
Hey, Dan. I'm good, man. I'm great. I'm kind of floating here on the proverbial juice here at the retreat. I've not been able to make it out for about the last 4 since coming around to the home group, and I'm pumped, man. We got beautiful weather, beautiful.
It has been great.
Almost a full moon.
It is a full moon tonight. Tonight is the full moon.
Oh, it is.
Yep.
Well, we got
according to the calendar on my phone.
Yeah, man, we got such a tall canopy over us. It's
we're in the
hard
woods.
to see that it's totally full.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, I'm super thrilled to finally be able to make it out and have some fellowship out here in the woods.
Yeah, man, it's fun.
It's awesome.
Yeah, so you ended up taking a long way here. You had a little bypass and ended up going all the way up near Bloomington, Indiana, and circled back down.
I took the scenic route. I went. You said it's 66 miles up here. I did it about 142.
Yeah, and then to commitment to your recovery and being here this weekend. Also, your son had a game today.
Went back to town.
And went back to town, went and partake in that.
Yeah, my little man was having a game in town, so I drove back, and that 66 miles seemed really short after doing about 140 last night. So
and then came back and
so I'm
settled
back
again.
again.
So,
yeah, man, absolutely. I really wouldn't miss it. This is my home group, and super happy to be outdoors with all my brothers, and great atmosphere. And it's kind of one of those things where I'm tired, but I don't really want to go to bed because there's so much fellowship going on.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's more food over on the table, and I want to go make another pass at it and eat some more. But I think I'm probably going to have to call it soon, and then look forward to whatever we do in the morning.
Yeah, we'll get up, and, have some breakfast, and we'll do. This morning I did a little yoga meditation. We'll offer that again if people want to do it, and we'll eat a little breakfast and have a morning meeting, and we'll try to make it a little bit shorter with this 32. I was just saying, whoever was here a minute ago, Chase or somebody, that 32 is actually kind of stretching the limit, because I really do push a thing here where I want you to participate. You don't really get to come here and sit on the sidelines.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make you come in here and be part of the circle,
and
overcome that cliquish thing.
Yeah,
I'm pulling you in here, and you're gonna come and be one of us.
Yeah.
While you're here this weekend, so I don't ever really let anybody off the hook on the sharing. But
absolutely.
If you're gonna share for 3 to 5 minutes, and you got 32 people,
absolutely,
that's a lot of minutes. We had a 4-hour meeting tonight.
Yes, we did. It was a marathon with a couple of snack breaks and pee breaks and joke breaks and laugh breaks. So,
fart breaks.
Well, the farts never really stopped.
They didn't.
They pretty much were. I was waiting for somebody to do a Blazing Saddles reference with the gas around the fire, because I know there's part of that movie was something with beans and everything else. I don't know, and I know I had some chili earlier. So
that's a shame, mate. I missed it. I didn't get to have any, man. They were heating up the second one, and I took a little nap in the middle of the day, man. And when I came back, a whole second batch was gone.
Yeah, no, I got back.
I got the
in
recipe
town.
Someplace.
Yeah, Shane's chili was awesome. I came back in town and got here a little late for lunch from going back to town and back, and had some chili, and it was awesome. So, yeah, being a first timer, this has been a lot of fun, and I definitely will look forward to coming out again, because it's really cool being able to relax, but also have a little bit of structure to share.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think we have to have that balance of both here, because if we just come have a free-for-all, I mean, it's not that we can't do that, but this is not for that.
Yeah.
This is to have a little bit of programming, so to speak, and have some structure in it.
A little bit of structure is a good thing.
Yeah, have some free time also. And people were in the pond today and fiddling around. It's been a beautiful day, beautiful weekend.
Yeah, catching fish.
We'll
and
kick out of here tomorrow around noon or so. And
is that what it is?
Everybody, noon or so. That's what I'm aiming at for that morning meeting to be done with. And how things work here, we're loosey goosey, but
well, man, I'm definitely gonna pencil in the next one in the fall, because it's been a lot of fun. And,
man. Well, I'm glad you came.
Thanks, buddy. And, appreciate the invite.
Yeah, man. Fun. Talk to you later, man.
All right, brother.
Bye.
Good night.
All right, we're back again. I throwed another lasso out to the crowd and pulled another guy up here. I need one big old stage hooks, they pull people off stage with. Got Mark up here with me. This is Mark's first spurt, and I'll just give you a little bit of background on that too. Mark started coming to Spiritual Underground, and I really didn't know him, and I got this email complimenting the podcast. And it was a really beautiful letter, and he knew that a lot of energy had been put into composing that email, and it touched me, and I just got led. I always try to watch and keep an eye out for people who might want like this, like will be special invites to the retreat, As I am a little bit careful with this, I don't just broadcast it out to everybody. I kind of keep it in our home group and people associated with Spiritual Underground. And I just felt led to throw you out a invitation, and you never know where that's going to go. But then you said, yeah, you would, and could, you and Marshall talked about coming. Marshall was already sat down and gave a little clip earlier today, I believe it was.
Right on.
So yeah, so how you doing, man? What do you think about the retreat?
Man, I'm doing fantastic. Amazed, man. This is pretty magical what you got out here, and yeah, thank you for the invite. The podcast, now I guess back in the day, speaker tapes for me were a big part of my early sobriety.
Yeah, I'm still a speaker tape fan.
And it kept me sober when I was, second DUI. I lost the license for 2 years. I'm walking to work. I had the earphones in.
Mm-hmm.
I'm listening to speaker tapes.
Yeah, man.
And I was getting the hope, man. And I'm hearing that same message of hope in the Spiritual Underground podcast.
Well, cool, man.
And it's a little bit different though. It's not quite so polished, right? Not quite so rehearsed.
Yeah.
And there's some authenticity there that I find very appealing.
Well, thank you, man, and that's what I'm shooting for. I'm shooting for it to be real, right?
Yeah.
And the speaker tapes are really cool, and I like listening to that too. But it's just a monologue of a person talking and telling their story, which is engaging. But I think there's something better to like have an interchange people in recovery.
Absolutely.
And I really like that angle that I'm getting to have about having that exchange, like an interview type forum with people talking about their story. I think you can draw some more things out and bring bring a little more depth to it that way. And then also have this freeform thing like this, man. And I don't know, I'm kind of doing this about the hair of my chinny chin. We started doing the ones and did the topics and the round tables, and I've been getting some feedback. Although with the negative bias I just talked about a couple minutes ago when Chase was sitting here and it was shared about tonight about how the negative, like for instance, a pound of negative seems to be heavier than 10 pounds of positive.
Sure.
So when I get a little bit of negative feedback on a podcast, I think that I weigh it too heavily.
Yes.
And so like I've got some negative feedback that some people are struggling with listening to the round table styles because they don't know us. So like if I'm listening to the round table or one of these people here are listening to the round table, they know everybody. So they're making the switch mentally of who's who really quickly. Some new listener that doesn't know us is having trouble with or somebody's not familiar with us is having trouble with us, like who's who when there's more people on the mic. It's pretty easy to tell, like when just two of us are sitting here,
I can imagine.
You get really used to it. It's me and Mark, right? I mean, after a little bit, you're like, okay, I know which one is which, and it doesn't take you long for you to mentally adjust to who's speaking.
Right.
In those roundtable ones, that's the feedback I've gotten. But anyway, I tried it, and I'm not saying that I won't do more of those. I'm actually interested in doing some more, although I might like cut it back to like 3 people, and see what happens. But this is another thing I got led to do. I thought, I'm gonna take this podcast and gear down there to the cabin for the retreat and just get people's reactions, like live from SPURT.
I think it's a great idea, man.
Yeah. So thank you for helping. Thank you for coming this weekend, man. You've added a lot to it. Everybody here, that's everything, man. This really truly is a we thing.
Yeah, man.
Everybody contributes.
I was thinking. I think earlier you mentioned that a lot of people were saying that there's something magic about this primitive being in the woods, right? And that maybe the trappings of technology and society weren't there because we weren't in a building.
Yeah.
And I think thinking about it, and part of it for me is nature, because part of the higher power thing is this spirit of the woods, spirit of the universe, that kind of deal as well. But I got to thinking, like, of and by myself, I can't stay sober alone, right? I've got to have you guys. Somehow we stay sober.
Yep, I love
right?
that. I love that.
And it's an errand of life and death, right? We're all trying not to die here, man. We're together in a survival situation. And if you think back, with regard to this setting, 400 or 500 years ago, 5,000 years ago, nature was pretty messed up, man. You could get jacked by a bear, or a wolf or a rabid woodchuck. I mean, nature's metal.
Right.
So, in a way, I think maybe we're a little bit wired for. We're banding together around a fire, trying to stay alive, man. Who knows what's out there in the dark, with the woods, and the combination of those two things isn't just additive; it's cumulative, right? They stack on top of each other, and I don't know. There's something mystical, magical, and powerful.
Yeah, well, before men could even speak, they've been sitting around fires, cooking meat and eating and doing what we've been doing this weekend. So this is like we talk about an ancient spiritual tradition. Sitting around doing what we're doing tonight, even is a very ancient spiritual tradition. Sitting around eating, hanging around a campfire, sharing with one another.
Right on.
That is an age-old tradition.
I'm blessed to be a part of it, man.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm really glad you came, brother. Glad you sat down and gave me a little time on here, man. I like hearing you share, man. I think you seem to be, personally, I get a vibe that you feel a little self-conscious about it, but then once you get rolling, I hear you, and I love to hear you share, man. I love to hear the things you're saying and stuff.
Thank you, man.
Hope that, raise that level of confidence in yourself, man, because you got it, man. Yeah. It's just something, and I know we fight with that, but man, I love you. I'm glad you come into the fold, and we just appreciate you being here.
Thank you, man, and just thanks for the opportunity to sit down and dance in the ear holes of the people of the world, man.
Yeah, there you go.
See, come join the water, man. The water's fine, or however that saying goes.
Yeah, man. Thanks, man.
Yep.
All right, how about it, everybody, man? It is winding down. I think it's 12:30 by now. Some of these guys don't sleep though, especially when you got the juice flowing through your veins like what flows through them down here at these places. Lassoed another guy, man. Guy I've known for a little while now, man. And actually, Brian. It's probably a little bit surprising that we didn't bump into each other out there, and who knows if we maybe didn't, because there's still a veil that is not quite clear between back then and now. You knew my brother, right?
Definitely knew your brother.
So what? Share some juice about tonight or the weekend or what's going on in your life, or whatever you feel like it.
Well, this is great. This is my second time here at SPURT. And first time, I was just coming out of the madness, more or less. Really had no focus whatsoever. I had a really good friend who brought me to, my introduction to you, Dan. And then he was here last year and was really working with me to try to get a focus on this program and what it could do for me. And, I really wasn't getting it. I was seeing what I was wanting to see out of it and what I could get out of it. And by getting, just immediate, instant gratification, instant gains, going right back to the whole materialistic, the ego. Still running on ego. I'm going to get what I want. If I do this, somebody's going to recognize, somebody's going to see. Just still going down the wormhole. Now years passed, and it wasn't a completely sober year by any means, but I'm on the longest stretch of sobriety I've had since preteen years.
Yeah.
And
just the change that I've seen in the last year, and where I am now with the program, and recognizing what the program can do for me. And being out here at the SPURT, a lot of these guys saw me when I was broken and when I was just coming in, and now they're getting to see just the changes. And
the transformation is amazing, man. I'll never get tired of watching that.
No, and you know what? I'll never get tired of experiencing it. And it's just a really good place where you can get out, you have more time for the fellowship, and you get to, let people see just how much growth has occurred. And hopefully for the new guys that are in the same boat that I was in last year, they can see just that, I identified a lot with a lot of the new guys. I mean, hey, I was there, didn't know a whole lot of people as closely as I do now, and nobody knew me as closely as they do now. But that's just a year.
Yeah.
And you could have told me that last year, that hey, in a year shit's going to be completely different.
Yeah, man, that's a tough thing to get across to people. It's one of my biggest points when I'm working with a guy that's new. It's like, this is not going to take very long for you to see some fantastic results, man.
Yeah,
if you will just do this work.
Everything that I've experienced in this last year, it's given me the opportunity to, even when I think it's negative, it's not negative, it's positive. It's a positive opportunity to grow, to learn, to just, see the world through, a new pair of glasses, as I say. But, the main thing that I can say is that the SPURT, the fellowship, Spiritual Underground, all of that has truly changed my perspective, not only on the little things that were going on that I thought were big things, but just me, my life in general, and the universe that I share with so many other beings.
Yeah, man.
So it's good juice.
Yeah, it is good, pure 100% juice that doesn't leave a hangover and has long-lasting effect too, man. That's the things that, the two things. There's no negative consequences to this juice, and it lasts a long time, man. All that other stuff never lasted, right? It just had these abrupt ends, man, and then boom. You thought I was having fun, then bam, the wall.
Yeah, I'll close my eyes, go to sleep tonight, and this won't end there.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Yep, wake up, dream about it, everything. Cool, man. I'm really glad you're here. It's just amazing transformation because, frankly, I remember last year, a lot of what you shared about was pointing the finger at other people. It was so-and-so, or it was this, or it was that, and I don't really remember the details. I just remember the outward of that, and the world of difference between now, like today, when you come in here and share, about what can I do, and here's the way that I handle this situation, and with the help of a sponsor and a fellowship, and completely different vibe from what you were experiencing and what you were sharing, what you were putting out there last year, and but that's what we do. We had to walk that path, man. We were once sick, and now we're well.
Yep, do the steps. You'll figure out that all the fingers point back at yourself.
Right, yep. Yep, no doubt, man. Well, thanks, Brian. Thanks for coming here, man. Thanks for helping out. And this is getting to be more and more of a participatory thing altogether as I start allowing myself to actually accept help from other people at a level that makes it a lot more fun for me.
I hear you, Dan.
And everybody's willing to do it, too. I just got to ask. So thanks for doing that. And thanks for sharing on the podcast, blowing some juice on here so people can get a little feeling about what these things mean to us.
Thank you for letting me participate in my recovery.
Yeah, man. Well, we have got another victim. No, it's not really a victim, man. I got lassoed another guy, Tony. Y'all have heard his story on the podcast if y'all have been listening. So, Tony's back. He's here to SPURT again, and I'm going to pour some juice on you tonight. Totally dig that you're back again, man.
It's great to be back. It's awesome. It's an awesome experience. It's amazing to see a group of men come together and be vulnerable and be able to share and be honest. It's a surreal experience, and I'm grateful to be able to have this in my life. So I just want to say thanks, and I look forward to plenty more in the future, hopefully.
Yeah, man, it is a wonderful thing to be able to have. Even I got this special spot where I get to actually host it and everything. But hell, if I just got to be here, and like I told a couple other people, I have to thank you all for coming because if y'all didn't come, I wouldn't have nobody to do this with, right? So. That's I've shared it in here once or twice already, and throughout this little series. This we thing, and y'all coming in and pitching in and help. Tony helped coordinate all the food for this time around and the snacks and all that, and run some interference for me there. Kept some of those people off of my phone lines, and that is a good help. And that's it. I'm getting better at accepting and allowing people to help me do this too, which makes it easier on me and allows me to have more enjoyment in it too. So as we evolve it that way, it's just keeps as far as I'm concerned, it just keeps getting better.
For sure. I appreciate the opportunity to serve. Even if it's just a little thing like food, I think we ate pretty good. So.
Yeah, man, that's one thing we're not doing here, man, is starving. That's for sure, man. We could probably actually back way off on it, but it's fun.
Yeah. No,
cool.
It's a beautiful place, and I used to come to places like this to get high and to get fucked up, and now I can come and get some peace. And that's a blessing.
Yeah, 20 to 1 on a Saturday night. I can promise you the majority. Actually, probably the majority of times I've been here at that time, since this will be 20 years since we built the cabin. This fall will be August will be the 20 years from when we broke the ground to begin with. We poured the concrete, dug the pillars, dug the I guess it's pillars. Dug the holes for the pilings, the concrete pillars that the cabin sits on. So so in 20 years, and I've been recovered now 4. So I can promise you, I've been down here a lot more drunk and I've been sober still. That'll cross over, and the energy's completely changed here now, man. I got it there just is not any of that energy here. It's not even an issue. I got that. I look back at some of the blessings in recovery, though, and that was a trigger kind of thing, for me to be here. And and so that first 9 months of my recovery, which I was actually sentenced to a year of home incarceration, only had to serve 9 months, kept me out of here for that 9 months, and I didn't have this trigger, this threatening situation in my life to have to do. By the time I got down here after 9 months of being, 9 months of being on home incarceration and got to come down here, man, it was like a freedom that was a lot different. I come down and stay for 2 weeks straight during deer season. They let me off I got off home incarceration like November 4th or something, like prime time deer season, man. I come down here and stay for 2 weeks. You don't use any vacation time when you're on home incarceration either, so I had a lot banked up. Cool, Tony, man. Appreciate you helping out this weekend, and appreciate you being here and being a part of my support group, man.
Well, thanks, Dan. I appreciate you too, and I love you, brother.
Love you. Hey, this is Dan again, coming to you on the tail end of that podcast. Just wanted to touch base with you one quick minute while, I had those 17 people agreed to come on and give a little bit, share a little juice to the podcast. Some folks don't care to be on the microphone, and that is just fine. Others choose to protect their anonymity at a different level, and that is fine too. That's up to the individual to protect their anonymity. But I'm just after listening to those guys do that and putting this together, took a little bit of work. Probably one of the more difficult podcasts I put together. Most time I just hit record, man, and y'all get I'll patch in some music on the front end and on the back end, and that's as easy as it is. With these 17, 18, 19 different parts of this one, and then the music in between, it was actually kind of fun, man. And golly, what these guys mean to me. I say when I speak, if you don't, I have the best sponsor in the entire world, and if you don't feel the same about yours, keep looking, because your sponsor is out there too. And I feel the same way about a home group. We call ourselves, and some people get a little bit maybe funny about it, but I'm not going to be ashamed of it and not going to apologize for it. We are a tribe. Read Sebastian Junger's book, Tribe. We lean on one another, somewhat like combat veterans, because basically going through the life that we went through, that's what it is. And we're survivors on the other end of that, and we lean on each other. We pick each other up. We go through things together that you can't imagine guys like us staying sober doing. Matter of fact, anybody going through in like a healthy manner. People are surviving things and having things happen in life on life terms. Things happen, and we put our arms underneath it. I had something happen to me that I've had a couple things, but I had a particular thing happen to me that should have just crushed me. But that is not the case, man. I let my friends here, my brothers, my tribe in on the deal, and they stick their arms under, and I just I have a vision of them joining arms underneath of me and holding me up so that I can stay up and get through to another day. Don't have to use, drink, do anything else stupid, hurt somebody else in that journey. It's an amazing thing. And so if you haven't found your tribe yet, I encourage you to keep looking. I have the best home group in the entire world. If you don't feel the same about yours, keep looking. I'll close with this, man. This thing just keeps getting better. My group gets better. Everybody's not better, deeper, connected. That's the difference. We begin to gel, and we bring new people in, and that feeds the new thing too, because they start seeing this energy, and it just keeps getting better and better and better because I continue to smell more around every corner. Love to see what's going on next. I don't even have to be. All I do is peek around the corner, encouraged and enthused about what's coming up next up around the corner. Thank y'all for allowing me to participate in my recovery. Hope you enjoyed that podcast. Keep on listening. Love y'all. Peace out.
Picture keeps getting clearer.